Let's start with our first guest at a Fox Business exclusive, U.S. Treasury Department Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs. We welcome back Monica Crowley. Great to see you, Monica.
Hi, Liz. Great to be back with you.
Lots of fighting going on in Washington to reopen the economy and protests happening from coast to coast in the states. Your reaction to this?
Well, the president and the White House issued guidelines for reopening the economy about 2 weeks ago, and the president made it clear that it was essentially up to the governors to make a determination, even on a county-by-county basis, but certainly based on the conditions on the ground with regard to the public health situation in their states and also the economic situation in their states. So what we're seeing is judgments being made across the country by these individual governors, again, based on what they're seeing on the ground and what they're experiencing, to reopen their economies in a safe, thoughtful, and responsible way. And I think in some instances, you're seeing folks who are extremely frustrated by the delay or what they think should be happening, taking their frustrations directly to their governors.
You know, Republican Senator John Cornyn saying that there are members of the Senate who do not think it's okay for, grocery store workers, doctors, hospital workers, firemen, cops out there fighting to work, to get the economy going. But heaven forbid, the House shows up to do its job. I mean, House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer says the House is going to return to Washington only when the next coronavirus bill is ready. This Friday's jobs report is expected to show maybe more than 30 million Americans out of a job. The ADP report came in less than that today. I mean, Americans are now deciding whether to pay their bills or to buy food. How come the House is not back at work? We understand there are senior citizens there, but, the rest of the country is fighting to stay alive.
Yeah, and the United States Senate did come back to work this week, so it sort of puts in bold relief the fact that the House isn't back in session yet. We will see how the politics of this play out, but we are in the middle of an extremely challenging period, both in terms of public health and in terms of the economy. And you're right, we have so many Americans who are essential workers who are putting their lives on the line every day to help their fellow Americans. And it would be nice to see the House of Representatives step up and go back to work as well.
The president is saying the White House Coronavirus Task Force will shift the focus toward reopening the economy. Here's the issue. Let's talk about this quickly. The COVID-19 virus is an RNA virus. HIV was an RNA virus. SARS-CoV-1 is an RNA virus. It took anywhere from 9 months to 12 months to develop tests for HIV and SARS-CoV-1. The Trump administration is getting attacked for not having tests for this. The reality check has bounced in the media. They're holding the White House in such contempt for not having this test ready when they're asking them to go from 0 to 500 miles per hour in 5 seconds. The media is failing in not providing the context of how complicated these tests are. Your reaction to that?
Yes, well, on the testing, the Trump administration has moved heaven and earth in record time to develop these tests and get them distributed to states and municipalities. In fact, the United States right now has the most widespread testing per capita than any nation on the face of the earth. And you point out a really important thing that I want to emphasize here, Liz, which is we are in an unprecedented situation. I think that point has largely gotten lost over the past 2.5 months. But it's not as if the president or Secretary Mnuchin or the vice president could pick up the phone and call a predecessor and say, what did you do during the last pandemic? Any advice? That didn't exist. I'm extremely proud of this president, vice president, Secretary Mnuchin, Larry Kudlow, the entire economic team, because they've felt their way through this crisis and moved with record speed to mobilize the entire U.S. government in a whole of America approach, both on the public health side and on the economic side, with a paycheck protection program, economic impact payments, assistance to state and local governments. The list goes on. The fact that we were able to move this battleship and turn it around in such a short amount of time is an astonishing achievement, and they deserve enormous credit for that.
The H1N1 in 2009 was a pandemic, but of a smaller size. You know, Bloomberg News, LA Times is saying the national stockpile did not have the N95 masks that it should have. They were not replenished. I want to move on to this. China is now pushing back on the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, say, show the proof COVID-19 broke out of the Wuhan lab. But the Five Eyes intelligence reports say out of Australia, the U.S., UK, Canada, New Zealand say, yeah, it did break out of the lab. China's been studying SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, that version of the virus, since 2013 for 7 years. China concealed it, destroyed laboratory evidence, censored the internet, disappeared whistleblowing individuals, including doctors. But now Nancy Pelosi is being accused by Republicans of looking into China. Kevin McCarthy wants to, and the House Republicans want to probe this. But she wants to focus on Dr. Richard Bright's complaints that he was sidelined after complaining that the malaria drug was coming out of India and China and not FDA-approved facilities. There's cronyism. Jared Kushner's accused of cronyism. So you see the split here, what's happening right now in the House. Your reaction to that?
Well, I think that there's some deflection going on here in terms of the real cause and the real issue. And Liz, I suspect that you will see a lot of investigations underway as the country begins to reopen and the attention turns to the origins of this virus and how China and other countries handle this as it proceeded. I don't think you've seen the end of this, and I know that there are a lot of conversations being had both on Capitol Hill and within the administration about how to handle this question going forward.
All right. Monica Crowley, come back soon. We love having you on. Great to see you.
Thank you so much, Liz. You bet.